Alright, so we've repeated the process for the enemy. Just to open the folder to show you briefly, we've got a folder for enemy with the animations. Now, I did make all four, although for the enemy we only really need one, which is the walk animation. So when you're doing this yourself, don't worry about doing the other three. This is for future videos with continuing this game further, but we'll only need the walk, and I'll show you why. So first things to get started though is to open gdevelop, the application we installed at the very beginning of this video, and you'll see a screen similar to this. We're using gdevelop 5. We're going to create a new project, and then we're going to choose an empty game. But before we do, I want to draw your attention to the bottom here, which has the path to your project. Now, I think it's very important that you make note of this, because the first game I created a while back, I actually couldn't find where it was saved for a while, and just make note. So we'll call it SWC game, all caps, because why not? We'll pick empty game, and there, we've created it. So now the first thing you'll notice is on the left we have this new project sidebar menu. Make sure scenes is expanded. We're going to add a scene. You can think of a scene as basically being a level. In fact, we're going to rename it. I just clicked on this hamburger triple dot menu and clicked rename, and I renamed it level 1. I clicked on the level 1 scene, and I'm just going to delete the scene I accidentally created here. There we go. And here we are. We have level 1, which this will be, you'll see in a second, this is where you drag your objects onto the screen. In events, this is where you create the game logic, and it's a little simpler than don't let it sound intimidating is what I'm trying to say. So let's just go over some very basic UI things, because this will probably save you some time in the future. Let's pretend that you've closed this and you've closed this, and you're wondering, how do I get that back? Because the UI is a little bit interesting. Well, you click this button here, the project manager button at the top left of the screen, and it'll open this sidebar menu, and then you can click your scene again and it'll reopen both tabs. So similarly, if you close the events tab, you can do this, click that project manager button, and then click the level 1 scene, and there we are. So that's where step 1, basically just how to use the most basic stuff in this application. We're going to get started on creating our main platformer character and doing the animations for it. And we're done. We've added all the animations. Walk, idle, injure, jump. So injure is obviously when the character gets injured or takes damage. And I just want to point out some of the settings. So I mentioned the loop and time between frame here. So for idle, because this will just be animation that'll just this is the character's default when it's not moving. This time does not matter. I left it at 1 second, and I chose to not loop it because there's only 1 frame. So for injure, I similarly chose to not loop it, and the reason why is because the character is going to take damage. The intention is that this animation plays exactly once before we reset the character. So that's why I've chosen to not loop, and I chose a 0.2 seconds between each frame. These numbers are kind of random, and you'll just have to play with them a bit. So there we go. There's just a preview of the injure animation. Similarly for jump, I actually chose to loop it because I don't want the animation to stop midway through, and this is meant to be a spellcasting animation, but I thought it was kind of a funny jump animation. So the final step before we hit apply at the bottom here, and this is very important for our player character, is at the top there's properties and behaviors. Click on behaviors, and then we're going to click to add a behavior to the object, and we're going to choose platformer character. This sets a lot of defaults, like it gives it some physics as well as enables control with the arrow keys. So now that we've done that, let's hit apply, and we have our player. Alright, so now let's get started and just make our player character. We're going to go to the right here, and there's this objects column. I'm going to hit the plus sign to add an object, and I'm going to choose sprite. So we'll call this sprite, and we'll just keep it simple. We'll just call it player. And I will, at the bottom right, before I hit apply, see click here to add an animation. So we're going to add animations, and this is just the stuff that our character will be doing visually when the player is being controlled. So first thing is for walk. We're going to hit the plus button here on this this image upload icon, and I'm going to go to desktop. I'm going to go to sprites. I'm going to go to player, walk, and then I'm going to just select them all by shift clicking and open. So then we can see it here. Now an important thing to know is that this is the time between each frame, which is 1 second, and that's gonna, here I'll show you in the preview, it's incredibly slow. In fact, I'm gonna close this because it's just a waste of time. I've played around with a few values, and I found that 0.1 seconds seems to work well, but try your own values, see what works for you. And the other option here, it says don't loop, but we're going to choose to let it loop because we just want our character to walk and have this animation play continuously. We don't want the animation to play once and the character to move and then the animation to stop playing, but the character's still moving. And I'll show you what that'll look like in a second. So I'm going to cut ahead to when I add the other animations because it's the exact same process. Just see you in a second. Alright, and now it's time to create the platform. So for the platform, I'm just gonna close this thing on the left for more screen space. Let's add an object. We're gonna choose tiled sprite, and we're gonna call it platform. Now for select an image, I didn't prepare an image. I'm gonna show you how to use the built-in editor. So click this icon, this paintbrush icon, and hit edit with pixel. It'll open a new window. And then we're going to choose this paint bucket tool, and I'm just using the default black because I don't really care about the color right now. And so paintbrush tool, and clicked on the screen and it turned everything black. So let's save to gdevelop. Great. And now, similarly to as what we did for player, let's go to from properties to behaviors, and let's add a behavior, and we're going to choose platform and hit apply. So you'll notice we skipped over a lot of settings. We did that because you don't need to worry about them right now. Those are things we can always change in the future. So now we have the objects on the right. Let's drag out platform, and I'm just going to put it here at the bottom. It's okay if it extends past the box here. That's all. Anything you create will be playable space. It's just the boxes, the camera, and what the player will see on this, what the user will see on the screen in one given moment. So we'll show you in a second what I mean. So I'm purposely extending it past the box area. I'm going to drag out the player. I'm just like the platform, and I didn't really explain this while I was doing it, but these little boxes at the bottom right will let you extend and change the size of the platform. So for the player, I'm just going to drag him out. You can put him up here. You can put him anywhere really. Gravity will take care of his descent to the platform. I'm going to put him in the far left here. And so, great, we've actually done enough now that we can actually try out our game. There's not much to it at the moment, and there's some major flaws, so you'll see in a second what I mean. At the top of the screen here, you'll see this launch preview of scene. It's like a play button. Let's click on it. It'll launch a window with preview of project, and you'll notice that the walk animation is playing. This is expected because that was the first animation that was put, and we walk, which looks okay, but we jump and the walk animation still plays, not our jump animation. We move left and our character is still facing in that direction. So the next thing we're going to do is set up the logic for when to play those animations for this character so it looks a little bit more sensible. You know, when you jump, you expect to see a jump animation. When you move left, you expect the character to flip and the image to kind of invert so you can see the character actually change direction. let's get started on that.